Yeah, yeah, continue.
Okay. So we will do quick recap of last class, then we'll go ahead with the next topic, loops. So in the last class, what we had seen nested data structures, and we had seen shallow copy and deep copy. The nested data structure is like one data structure inside another. So we have seen a list inside a list, tuple inside a list, then dictionary inside a list. So how do we access them? First, we have to go with the higher level data structure. Here it is a list. List follows the indexing concept, right? So if you want to get the first item, which is again a list, we have to go with index 0. If you want to get next item, index 1. So once we get whatever inside data structure, you can apply the same operations. Now this is a list, right? So for this list, if you want to get the first item, we have to apply the index 0. So if you apply first index 0, we get the sublist. Next index 0, we get tomato. That's how we can loop over all the nested data structures. Similar fashion, if we want to get the pulse here, this my item is at index 2. We have to go to index 2. Then it is a dictionary. In the dictionary, how do we get items? We have to go by the key value. It is grocery here. So we need to keep first index 2, then grocery. This is how we get into this list inside our dictionary. So if you want to get, let's say, sugar from inside this list, right? So after grocery, you have to again apply the indexing like this here. First indexing 2, then key, then again index 1. That is how we get it to sugar. So how do we update items? The same fashion. As we get the inside item, if it is list, you can do all the list operations like appending. I'm adding new item to that list. The same fashion, if you want to update something or add new key or dictionary, it is all same. However, we are retrieving the item the same way you pull it and assign the new value using the assignment operator. That's how we update any value inside nested data structure. And note that we can only update for the mutable such as list, dictionary, and for set you can add new item or delete new item. But for tuple you cannot do anything. Then what we have seen. Okay. S- Though tuple is a immutable object, when it has a list inside, we can still update this list. How? Internally, when we have a tuple like this, it the values are stored in a separate memory location like this. For example, here A is stored in 345, then the list is stored in 678. As our list is immutable, which can be changed, right? You can add any items. Since our tuple is referring to this memory location, it cannot control any operation to this memory location. But whatever is there in this memory location, this tuple will always retrieve. So here we just added one more value to our list. So in the 678 memory location, the new value is 1234. Our tuple is just referring to that location. So whatever value we have in that memory location 678, the same thing will be printed. So ideally you can update the items even if it is inside the tuple as it is referring only to the memory location. Then again we have seen capital A, small a, these are two different values because Python is a case sensitive language. Then we have seen shallow copy versus deep copy. So what is the difference? In the shallow copy, it always copies only the high level items. The inside the nested data structure is only referenced by the memory. For example, here the wedge that's upper level key is stored in 987 and our list is stored at 876. So when we take a shallow copy that is using dot copy method, only the wedge is copied into different memory location. Let's say it is 107. However, your inside nested data structure is referenced by memory location only. It will not create a new copy. Because of this reason, whatever changes you do, to this inside list either through your original list or through your copied one. It is same because both are pointing to same memory location. So if you add something to that inside list, it will affect both. That is the problem with shallow copy. That is where our deep copy comes into picture, where it takes copy of everything to new memory location. So in the deep copy, it will be a new memory altogether. Let's say this is also something else. And it's 7. Let's say this will be 109, 100. This way, the deep copy is taking copy of every item into different memory location. So once deep copy is taken, whatever changes we are doing to main list, that will not affect. That is the difference between shallow copy and deep copy. Yeah, so that's all we have seen in last class. Now let's go to our next one, loops. So today we are going to talk about loops, for loop, that's the first topic. Then we do comprehension. We will see what is that. We will see while loop. Then finally, we'll also see the nested loops. Let's talk about for loop. So if we go by English terms, right? English language, when we use for everyone in the company, for everything in the house, right? That's how we usually use English for, right? Which means for everything inside something. Here also in language, for everything in whatever we are trying to read, it goes through each item at a time. That is what for loop. For example, and before that, for loop works on iterable object. What are iterable objects? Whatever objects we have which has the indexing concept. So what and all we have seen? We have seen strings, right? It has indexing. What else we have seen? We have seen list, right? Then we also seen tuple. Then we have dictionary also. We also have range object that we have seen last. And remember that for loop works on set as well, because when you are not worried about order, but if you want to go through each element, for loop still works on the set, but order is not guaranteed as order is not maintained in the set. Now let's start with a list, then we will see the remaining as well. For example, let's say I have some weights in, let's say, in grams. Let me keep that as underscore, let's say grams, 1400, 2300, something like this. And what we want to do, we want to convert this into, let's say, kilograms. That is our requirement, right? So now how we do, what you can do, right? Weight grams. If you want, you can take first one, right? Divided by 1000. That is what you can do to get the kilograms. Let's say I am creating one new list. Let's say kgs. I am creating an empty list. Okay. Then let's assign this to some other value. This is how I am getting converted value into my case, right? Let me print. Yeah, it is 1.2, right? That is what we got. So now 1.2 where I want in my output list, right? I have defined an empty one here. How do I add my this 1.2 this existing empty list? We have a list method, right? Dot append. Using dot append, I add whatever item I want. Now I just print weight kgs. Let's print. You see now our weighted in kgs, I got the first item as 1.2, right? I have how many more items? I have four more items, right? So if I have to convert the remaining four, what I have to do? I have to repeat this process. 1, 2, 3, right? What I have to do? I have to change the index. No, it is 3, I think, right? 0, 1, then index 2, then index 3. So each value we converted and we added into our list. See now finally we got our output, whatever we wanted to convert into kgs. 1.2, 1.4, 2.3, 5.6. So we had four items, good, and we wrote the same thing four times with a different index. Imagine we have 1000 items in the list, 2000 items in the list. We can't keep writing this code, right? That is where our loops will help us. Now let's understand how do we loop over this particular list. Let me comment out this part for now. So how do you write a for loop syntax? It is for word, then here you need to write a variable name. Any variable, how we are assigning weight grams, weight kgs, right? Any variable you can assign. So what I am doing, I am assigning a variable called weight. Then syntax is in. For in what? I want to go with each item in this list. Again, you have to give that colon, same indentation concept. Whatever we write under for loop with the indentation, they all come under that particular for loop. Anything comes without indentation, that is the end of the for loop. The same concept we have seen in if, right? The same way. So here what is happening when we say for weight in weights grams, right? It go over this list, take one item at a time. It is looping over. First it gets you 1200, then it gets you 1400, 2300, till end it goes. And what is this weight here, right? In every loop, the value you are getting will come to this variable. So whatever you want to do with that value, you can actually refer or get that using this variable what we are keeping here. Now let's see how this for loop will execute. Now you see what we have done. We have looped over our list. We are taking each item at a time. We are printing it. So 1200 first printed, 1400, 2300, 5600. That is how we loop over a list, get into a variable like this and use that variable inside that particular loop. If you try to access that outside the for loop, right, it is not accessible. It is still accessible, but you will have only the last value. Let's see what's output. I don't remember exactly. You see, it was just having the last value in the loop. But we don't refer it outside. We always refer that only inside the for loop. But if you want, you can still refer, but you only get only last item. This could be an interview question also. They will just say, okay, I have done a for loop. I'm using this value outside my for loop. What happens? The answer is it will hold the last value because that was the last one assigned to this variable. Okay. Now let's come back here. Now, what was our requirement? To convert each item into kgs, right? Now, how are we converting? We were converting using this logic, right? I can just copy paste now. So, kg, I'm converting. So how we will add this to our output? using the same append method, right? Grams dot append kg. Now, if I print my weighted kgs, right? So if you observe, huh, here we are referring with index 0, right, outside. But here, how are we getting each value to this weight variable? So we can actually get each value into this variable, then divide by 1000. Here we don't need indexing concept because for loop itself is giving us each value in this variable. You observe our print is inside the for loop, and let's see what happens now. What happened? Oh, it is never ending. You know what mistake I did? I am adding it back to the same list. So what is happening? It is getting new item in every loop, so the loop is never ending. It is continuously executing. The loop is never ending. This is what I am supposed to give.
How to end the loop?
Sorry?
How to end the loop
No, you
in
have to
case of.
stop the interrupter here. The one was there,
Okay,
no?
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You must have seen in the movies, right? Blank screen, keep scrolling.
Uh,
That is what we have just seen the same thing. If you put infinite loop, right, to some values, it will keep scrolling. That is what they show in the movies, nothing else.
How did you stop it?
Sorry?
How did you stop it?
You have to kill here with the interrupter. Stop
Okay.
this. You
Okay,
want
stop
me to
the
show
release.
again? Let me show. Okay. Let's say I'm printing something. Okay. Let's imagine inside the loop I'm printing something, some random values. Okay. Again, I'll also keep some symbols or something, right? Now let me keep this big. Okay. And then run this code. You see, it will never stop. This is what you see. Here, this is then a stop. So if you print some 10, 15 lines with the different values and put infinite loop, right? You are going to get the same same scene. Okay, coming back here, I should add it to, and you understood right why it was infinite loop?
I got it.
Yeah. So because
Oh,
initial it is 4, and in every loop you are keep adding the value, and the for loop is never
yeah,
reaching the end.
and exit.
Yeah. Let me just update this. Now let's execute. Hmm. Now, so we have given what what we got 1200 into our weight. 1200 by 1000, 1.2. 1.2 we added to the list, and I printed that immediately. That is why in the first loop I got only first value. In the second loop I got 1400 divided by 1000, 1.4 added to my list. In the second loop, second one was added. Third loop, third one was added. Fourth loop, the last one was added. This is how you can iterate through items. You can collect into a new whatever list,
Excellent.
tuple, whatever you want. Yeah. This is how we do in real time also. You define something as empty, loop over, and you keep adding to that. Just imagine, okay, instead of adding it outside the for loop, if I add inside the for loop. Now let's see what happens. You see what happened? Every time you are getting only that particular value. The previous value are not retained. The reason is when the first loop started, you define this new list, empty list, right? You got the value, you added that. So 1.2 was there in the first iteration. In the second iteration, what happens? You again reassigned same thing to empty list. So this value was gone, 1.2, in the second iteration because you are reassigning it. That is how the previous value are lost, and every time you are getting new list and you are having only one value. That is the reason this should be outside for loop. Then only you will retain all the values. Clear? This is important. If you don't have it outside, you will not have the data for each item.
Sharath, can you repeat, please?
Yeah. So if
Sorry,
we,
Zara, before you repeat it, I have one
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Weight, ఇందాక weight kgs అని వింటారు కదా.
Hmm.
Before you were using that append with the grams, right? Why were you using that grams?
ఇక్కడ
అంతకుముందు
mistake, by
గ్రామ్స్
mistake, by mistake,
మిస్టేకేనా? ఓకే
to show you
ఓకే
movie scene.
ఓకే ఓకే అండర్స్టాండ్.
శరత్, ఐ హ్యావ్ క్వశ్చన్.
ఆహా,
ఇక్కడ వైట్ గ్రామ్స్ అనేది లిస్ట్ కదా.
అవును.
సో ఆ లిస్ట్లో నువ్వు ఏదైనా డిఫైన్ చేసుకోవచ్చు కదా,
ఎస్
లైక్
ఎస్ ఎనీథింగ్
నాట్
ఎనీథింగ్
ఓన్లీ
ఎస్
ఇంటీజర్.
ఎస్
యా యా.
ఎస్ ఎనీథింగ్
సో
ఎనీథింగ్.
అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఇక్కడ వెయిట్ అనేది కూడా లిస్ట్ కింద వస్తుందా?
లేదు కదా.
వైట్ గ్రామ్స్ ఇస్ ఎ లిస్ట్.
వెయిట్ గ్రామ్స్
వెయిట్
ఇస్
అనేది
వెయిట్ అనేది ఈచ్ ఐటమ్ వస్తుంది ఇన్సైడ్. ఇట్ గోస్ త్రూ ఈచ్ ఐటమ్ ఇన్ వన్ లూప్. సో
అంటే క్వశ్చన్ ఎందుకు అడుగుతున్నానంటే, సే ఇక్కడ ఇంటీజర్ అవ్వచ్చు లేదా
కరెక్ట్.
ఏదైనా అవ్వచ్చు కదా, క్యారెక్టర్ అవ్వచ్చు లేదా ఏదైనా అవ్వచ్చు కదా.
ఓకే, ఐఎమ్ కీపింగ్ లెట్స్ సే వన్ మోర్ హియర్. ఓకే, then I'm keeping some string here. Okay, then okay, for this is sufficient. So now what happens? First 1200 comes the same way 1 2 3 will come, right? When 1 2 3 comes by 1000, it is not what you call logical thing, right? And again Sarath by 1000, again it's not logical. It will fail. Let's execute and see. Yeah, unsupported operand between list and integer. You cannot divide list by 1000. Okay, but how do we handle really? If you think, okay, I can get weight in grams, whatever integers we are getting here, that is grams. Apart from integer, I don't want you to consider, ignore. We have seen methods, you remember? How do we check if something is integer, right? We have seen type, right?
నెంబర్, యా, టైప్ ఫైల్,
Type of weight.
వెయిట్ ఇస్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు
Let's say as not quotes, we have to just say integer.
ఇంటీజర్. యా,
This is how we can actually handle this.
గాట్ ఇట్.
This is how we should make use of whatever we are learning so far. And in real time, right, you can still use the type, right, but it is not recommended. So what is recommended is instant. Okay, is instant. What you do, right, inside that, what is the variable you want? Weight variable, right? What is that you are trying to check? This is same thing whatever I have done before, right? But in the real time we use this is instance variable, then int. This is also
గాట్
same.
ఇట్.
You may see type also in the real time, but that is not recommended. Okay, now
బట్ అది నాకు మీరు చెప్పకుండా అంటే ఎట్లా తెలుస్తుంది? నాకు హౌ వుడ్ ఐ నో లైక్ ఈజ్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ వాడాలి, నాట్ ఏ టైప్ అని?
okay,
అంటే
good.
సిమిలర్
Good
సిమిలర్
question.
కైండ్.
PyCharm only will tell you. Okay, when you are there are some plugins, okay, which I will be covering in linting and
ఓకే,
profiling.
ఓకే.
So when PyCharm will go through your code and do some recommendations. In such recommendations, it will tell you, okay, there is a type here, you replace with each instance.
ఓకే,
The address only will tell you.
గాట్ ఇట్.
Now let's say, okay, it was integer, right? Now let's say, now what I am telling, there is no guarantee that I will give you only
ఇంటీజర్
in integer. I can give you in sublist also.
సబ్లిస్ట్.
This is another requirement, let's say. So now what we have to do, now I need to check whether my weight is a list now, right? If it is a list, I have to again go through it. Okay, is instance. If it is a list, now what should I do, right? So inside the list, now how should I iterate this list now? How we are iterating the outer one?
యూ హ్యావ్ టు బి యూజ్డ్ టు
For loop, right?
ఫర్.
Now
యా.
this is a nested for loop inside a loop. Now let's say I'm just keeping w for now, for w in weight. Again, just have to repeat this. That's what I have to do, right? But here it is W, not weight. Sorry, W. Check whether it is integer or not. If it is
Hmm.
integer, then only you divide by 1000.
1000.
Then only you append our new value, right? So finally else, right? You can say, let's say, you can define skipped records. Okay, let's say
Hmm.
you can now just simply add that last item. Skip records dot append weight. Understood, right? What we are trying to do here.
Hmm.
First,
Hmm.
we are checking whether this is integer. Then you convert to cases. If it is a list, right? Again in the list, we are checking whether it is integer or not. Okay. Suppose inside here, if I'm not having integer, right? ABC. Let us take this also into our skipped records. How do we take? Here, if it is not integer, that is else, right? In the else, weighted, sorry, not weighted, skipped dot append. Here I have to append what? W, because I
W.
am inside the second loop.
Hmm.
So now let's execute. Let's not confuse printing this here. I'll just print at the end. Print weighted cases, then skipped records. Execute. Yeah, now you see we are still printing here. That's okay. Consider only last two.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how it has happened? We came here. We checked whether it is integer. Yes, this is integer. Added to weight cages. That is why we got 1.2. Then 1.4, same thing till here. So now
Hmm.
when it is a list, we came into elif. In the elif, what we have? We have 1100, 2000, 3400, right? So again we looped through the sublist. Again we checked whether it is integer or not. If it is integer, we added that to our same output list. That is how we got 1.1, 2.0, 3.4. So when it encountered ABC right here, so where it will go? It will go to else part.
Skip. Hmm.
In the else, we added that to skipped records. That is how ABC has come to skipped one. And apart from this, in the main list, if there is something which is not a integer, not a list, then also we are adding into our skipped records. That is how we got Sharit into the skipped one. Got it?
బట్ సబ్ లిస్ట్ బ్రేక్ అయిపోయింది కదా.
ఎక్కడ బ్రేక్ అయింది?
నెస్టెడ్ లిస్ట్
బ్రేక్ ఏం అవ్వలేదు కదా.
నెస్టెడ్ లిస్ట్ మర్జ్ ఇంటే మెయిన్ లిస్ట్ కదా అప్పుడు.
That is depends on our requirement, how you want to have your out
ఓకే.
requirement.
ఓకే. ఓకే.
If you
హ్మ్.
want to again maintain it as sublist, right? What we should do
హ్మ్.
now? Um, okay, that's a good thought. I have to define one more list here. Okay, let's say inner output. Now, instead of adding it to my
Into the
main
weight.
one, I have
Mhm.
to add
Inner
here.
output.
Yeah. So finally, once we we are done with this for loop, right?
We break that loop. So
Then
add into
only
the
we
file.
should add this inner output as a one single item.
Mm.
Okay. So how do we add? We can come here, weight cases dot
Is equal dot.
append. Append, right? Append will add
Mm.
to the end.
Inner output. Yeah.
Okay. This is how we can add this whole list as a new item to our output.
Mm. Got it.
Now you see
Mm.
this has
Mm.
come as a sublist. If you want it as it is as a sublist. Okay. So you can actually have else here. Okay. Else is there in for loops also. So what is else in the loops is when loop completes normally. Okay. What is mean by normally? The loop went through each item inside wait, right? Till end. That is what normally. Looped till end. There is a way to break your loop in between. So that I'll come and tell you. Okay, let's understand. Let me explain with simple one, then we'll go to the complex one. There are two things in loops, that is continue. Continue means skip following statements and go to next iteration. That is what continue meaning. Okay. There is one more called break. Break means break the loop. You just break the loop. Don't do anything else in the loop. Now let
Sorry, సరే
yeah.
చాలా లూస్ లో ఈ
ఏముంది?
క్వశ్చన్ చాలా చేశారు. ఐ లాస్ట్ సమ్వేర్ యాక్చువల్లీ.
ఓకే, ఇది రిపీట్
నాకు ఒకటి
చేయమంటారా పైది?
డోంట్ రిపీట్. ఐ విల్ గో
ఓకే.
త్రూ ది వీడియో అగైన్. బట్
మ్మ్.
ఒక దగ్గర స్టక్ అయ్యాను. సో అక్కడి నుంచి నేను తర్వాత వెళ్ళలేకపోతున్నాను. సో
ఓకే.
మీరు ఇందాక మెన్షన్ చేశారు కదా, కేజీస్ అదే మనము వాల్యూ ఎంటీ
మ్మ్.
ఫస్ట్ డిఫైన్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఎవ్రీ టైం ఇట్లు యాడ్ అవుతా వచ్చింది కదా.
మ్మ్.
సో మీరు మొత్తం కలిపి ఎలా ప్రింట్ చేశారు? అది ఒకసారి నాకు మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి
అవుట్ సైడ్ ద ఫర్ లూప్
అవుట్ సైడ్ ఫర్ లూప్ ప్రింట్ చేశారా? నేను ప్రింట్ చేస్తే మరి నాకు రాలేదైతే.
వస్తుంది.
ఇక్కడ మిస్
అవుట్ సైడ్ ఫర్ లూప్ చేస్తేనే ఓన్లీ ఆఫ్టర్ ఫర్ లూప్ దిస్ విల్ బి ప్రింటెడ్.
అవుట్ సైడ్ ఫర్ లూప్ ఇస్తే నాకు లాస్ట్ అప్డేటెడ్ వాల్యూ వస్తుంది నాకు.
ఓకే, అప్పుడు మీరు ఏం చేసి ఉంటారంటే ఈ అవుట్పుట్ లిస్ట్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, అవి మేబీ ఫర్ లూప్ లోపల డిఫైన్ చేసి ఉంటారు. ఫర్ లూప్ బయట డిఫైన్ చేయండి.
ఫర్ లూప్ బయట డిఫైన్ చేయాలా?
హ్మ్.
నేను సార్ ఫర్ లూపే వాడలేదు. నేను అక్కడే మిస్ అయిపోయాను ఫర్ లూప్ లో.
ఫర్ లూప్
సారీ ఫర్ లూప్ అంటున్నా. ఇఫ్ వాడలేదు, ఫర్వే
ఓకే,
వాడాను.
దట్స్ ఓకే, నాట్ ఏ ప్రాబ్లం. మీరు అవుట్పుట్ లిస్ట్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో అవి అవుట్ సైడ్ ఫర్ లూప్ ఉండాలి.
నేను పింగ్ చేస్తాను ఒక్కసారి. నాకు
పర్లేదు, మీ స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేయండి, పర్లేదు. That's okay.
మళ్ళీ స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేస్తాను.
Okay, we were talking about continue and break, right? Okay, let me just comment this part. Yeah. Okay, just comment this. We are not printing anything else. So, okay, now how do we say continue? Okay, let's understand the same thing. Okay, weight grams, right? So what we have done for weight in weight grams, okay, what we wanted, same output, let's say new output, w output. Now my requirement is if is instance weight anything apart from integer, I don't want to do anything. That is our requirement. Only if it is integer, I will convert into kgs and then I will convert it as output, right? So how do I check whether it is integer or not? This is the method, right? So if I want to check, I want to make this condition only true when if it is not integer, I should add not. This we have seen already, right? If you just put not, whenever it is not integer, it will be true. So whenever it is not integer, I don't want to do anything. That is where we use continue. Okay. Skip to next item. Okay. If it is integer, then my if condition becomes false, right? So what I can do, I can just add this to my output. See how I am doing. I am just weight divide by 1000. See, I'm just doing in single line now. I'm not assigning to new variable. I'm just calculating weight by 1000. Whatever output I get, I just want to append to my output. But before this, we have this condition. If it is not integer, I am telling you just continue. Okay. Now let's see what is the output. Right, grams. Now you see what we got. If it is not integer, continue. Okay, my bad, I didn't print output. W underscore output. Yeah, this is what we had, right? So what we are doing, when it is integer, this condition becomes false. Then I'm executing this where we are converting to kg and appending it. That is, so 1.2 I got, 1.4 I got, 2.3 I got, 5.6 I got. Okay. For remaining items, what happened? When this came, right? Continue came. When continue is there, whatever statements below that inside the for loop will be bypassed, will be skipped, and it just goes to next item. That is how it went. Okay, let us add one more before this. Right, grams. I'm just adding one more value, 4500, and let me print this in each iteration. Okay. Um, so now I want to just print a message that what is the iteration number. Okay, iteration, which number? Iteration, let's say we are starting from 1, right? So how can I do that, right? I'm just putting a value to 1 here. Okay, instead of 1 I'm just printing I. Remember string formatting, right? I can just put I there and F. So whatever is there I will print that. So now first iteration I1 will come. For the next iteration, how would I increase this I, right? I have to keep here, in any case, I equal to I plus 1. If the condition is true, then it goes inside, make I to 2 and continue to next one, right? If this condition is false, this gets executed, printed. At the end again, I have to increase the counter, I plus 1. So now let's see how we get the output. So now we are printing clearly. This is what the list we had. Okay. Iteration 1. In the iteration, what happened? This went converted to kg. We are good. Iteration 2. 1.2 we get next item 1.4. Iteration 3 we got next one. Iteration 4. In the iteration 5 you see there is no output because this condition was met and it encountered the continue. Because of the continue, the following statements were not executed. Okay. Same thing with iteration 6, 7. In the 7, again we had integer at the end, right? 4500. The 4500 was also converted and we got into output. So understood the continue? Wherever continue
Yeah,
comes,
sure.
yeah,
Got it.
just it skip whatever in next following statements inside the for loop. That is the continue. Now let's see break. Unlike continue, break will break complete loop itself. Sorry, I'll just comment out all this. Okay, copy paste same thing. Instead of continue, let's keep break. It will break whole loop. Break whole loop.
శరత్
Yeah.
ఒకసారి స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేస్తాను. నేను కూడా parallel గా రాశాను.
Okay.
స్టక్ అయ్యాను. ఒకసారి
Okay.
చూద్దామా?
Change. విని గారు
చేస్తుంది.
కనపడుతుంది.
కనబడుతుందా?
Hmm.
సో
లేదు. యాక్చువల్లీ మీ పైచామ్ కనిపించలే. ఎక్సెల్
పైచామ్
Open the
కనిపించట్లేదా?
bank
ఆహా!
information and send the account details.
కనిపించట్లేదా?
పైచాం
లేదు.
కనిపించట్లేదు. మీరు పైచాం క్లిక్ చేయండి కింద.
మీరు
లేదు.
ఓకే.
ఓకే,
యాక్చువల్లీ
ఎంటైర్
స్క్రీన్
స్క్రీన్
షేరింగ్
ఎంటైర్ స్క్రీన్ షేర్
అయిపోతుంది.
చేయండి.
The bank details కనిపించేవి.
యాడ్ చేసుకొని
Okay, let's see the break now. How break works. Let me print the same thing, right? Iteration 1, print output. Okay, you see now what happened. Iteration 1, 1200, well and good. This condition failed, so it came here, added. Till 5600, everything was good. Till iteration 4, right? In the iteration 5, see, it stopped. There is no further processing because of break. When it came to iteration 5, which is the sublist, this condition became true. The condition became true, and inside the condition you have a break statement, right? As soon as you encounter break, the loop will stop. If anything outside this, right, it will continue as it is, because that is not inside the loop. Outside loop. You see, outside loop, but your loop will stop. That is what break does. Break is very much useful in while loops, right? We will see in the while loops, right? We do the looping on a condition base, and you just want to stop your loop only on certain condition. So I think we have seen in first class, right, during input, until user enter correct number, we were infinitely looping it, right? So yeah, we will see again in while. So this is about for loop. We have seen so far for all the list, right? The same thing for other also. There is no difference much. Let me just show you how do we loop through a string. Let's say name, we have Abdul Kalam, right? So what do you do for I in name? Print I. If you just do that, you get each character at a time into I. See, including space also. Here there is a space, right? That is how you can iterate through a string. You can also do the same iteration over a tuple also. See, for I, this is like a what do you call, quick way of doing it, but in the real time, always go by the proper names. I can directly put something here tuple. I am not doing it in a variable separately. Even if you define it outside, also it is same. If I am just keeping this somewhere here, right? Some x equal to, right? For I in x. If you print I, okay, I just got one idea. ABC, BCD, let's say CEF. So now, if I want to print each character at a time, how we can achieve? In the first iteration, I get only ABC, but again I want to print ABC separately. If you just print now, right, ABC comes
Take it into
first,
a string.
again BCD. Sorry, Sriram.
No, take it into a string.
No, it's already string, right? ABC. I want, instead of printing ABC1, then BCD, then CF, I want to print A, B, C, like each line separately. So now we got ABC. Now from this ABC, how do I print each separately? We have just seen this, right?
with the for loop for J.
One more for loop. That's all we
Inner
need.
for
For J in I.
J.
Let's say I'm keeping like this. So now I just have to print J. because tuple is iterable, so I can do a for loop. Again, string is iterable, so again I can loop over. See, now we the same formula we have seen it in the nested data structures. You go by one item at a time. When you are going in for loop, what you get in I get a string here. Whatever you can do for the string, same thing you can do under it using the I. If there is a integer, you can't do the for loop because for integer, for loop is not valid, right? Let's say I'm doing this right. We got the error. Int object is not iterable. It is not iterable object. For works only for iterable objects. That's how you can do for loop for tuple. Set is also same thing. Okay, set let's say A, B, C for I n x print I. Just comment this part. Yeah, we got, see the order A, C, B. There is no guarantee what order you get. But if you want to loop over everything, you can just do the for loop. Now the interesting part. If you are going on a dictionary, right? Let's say not shopping, what we have seen, right? Which, let's say I'm just giving one for now. Fruit, apple. So if you now loop through dictionary, what you are getting? Print I. You see, we got only veg and fruit. The reason is, you remember how do we get only keys from a dictionary, right? What is the method? The method is shopping dot keys. So internally, if you even give a dictionary like this, behind scene it is actually only keys it will iterate through. That is why you get only veg and fruit. Right? So you see in two cases we are going to get the same output. Yeah, use veg fruit, veg fruit. Now if you want to iterate through values, right? So you remember the values method we have seen, right? Here you get only values and each value is it when it will go to I and we can print that. You see, now we got only values, onion and apple in the values. Now the interesting part, how do we iterate through both keys and values? You remember there was a method which will give both, right? That is items. Items will give both key and value, right? So now let's see how it will actually print. Now you see how it is printing. It is printing a tuple. One tuple will have first value as a key, second value as a value. That is how the items will return and I will get it as a tuple. For example, let's say you want again key in a separate variable, value in a separate variable. Assume, okay. You remember, okay, let's go with this first. I of 0, that is our key, right? Next, I of 1. So you can print, let's say, key, right? I'm just printing key using the K. Then I'm printing value, let's say value, right? You see, we got key fruit, we got value apple. The same way here, key veg, value onion. This we are printing in 94, that is why the tuple has come there. So now whatever you want to do with the K, whatever you want to do with the V, you can still do it. That is how we can take each item into separate variable. And there is a shortcut. Now you are assigning with a index, right? You remember the tuple unpacking, right? The how many ever items we have inside a tuple, if you keep same number of variables, right? Automatically they will be unpacked. So now I don't need to go with indexing concept, right? Even if you see now, we get the same output. You see now, key veg value onion, key fruit value apple. Because here our tuple is unpacked into two different variables, that is key and value. Whatever unpacking you are doing here, right? Kv equal to I. You can actually do it directly in the for loop. So here we are giving two variables. When for loop is getting an item here, okay, if it is like a list tuple which can be unpacked into two items, for loop does that automatically. You can't do this to values because values is going to give you only one item separately, right? So you can't assign two variables in the for loop. But wherein items is going to give each item as a tuple which has two values, that is key and value. So if you keep two variables here, the for loop itself will unpack it. Now you see we are going to get the same data. You see key veg value onion, key fruit value apple. This is how we write code in real time for dictionaries. We always keep two variables and we use items method whenever we want to iterate through a dictionary. Okay, understood how we iterate through a dictionary?
Yeah. Sure, 95 ఒక్కసారి లైన్ 95 ఒకసారి చెప్పండి.
So tuple unpacking. Suppose ఒక tuple లో ఇలా two values ఉన్నాయనుకోండి. Shit. Okay, now what is this? Let's say name అనేది ఒకటి ఉంది. Okay, so ఇందులో two items ఉన్నాయి, అబ్దుల్ కలాం. ఇప్పుడు మీరు అబ్దుల్ని ఒక వేరియబుల్లోకి తీసుకెళ్లాలంటే ఫస్ట్ నేమ్, సో అబ్దుల్ ఎలా వస్తుంది మనకి, నేమ్ ఆఫ్ 0 కదా. సేమ్
Yeah.
లాస్ట్ నేమ్ కావాలంటే నేమ్ ఆఫ్ 1
1.
ఇలా వస్తుంది.
Mm.
Print first name, print last name. Okay, let me comment this for now. Yeah, మనకు వచ్చిందా అబ్దుల్ కలాం separate variables. సో ఇన్ ద టూపుల్ అన్పాకింగ్ లో ఇక్కడ ఎన్ని ఐటమ్స్ ఉన్నాయో, నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఐటమ్స్, అన్ని వేరియబుల్స్ ని డైరెక్ట్ ఈక్వల్ కి లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్ ఇచ్చేయచ్చు మనం బిఫోర్ అసైనింగ్ ఆపరేటర్. ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ కమా లాస్ట్ నేమ్. ఇలా ఇస్తే ఏమవుతుందంటే పైథాన్ విల్ అన్పాక్ దిస్ టపుల్, అసైన్ ఫస్ట్ వాల్యూ టు ఫస్ట్ వేరియబుల్, సెకండ్ వాల్యూ టు సెకండ్ వేరియబుల్. సో ఏదైతే మనం ఇండెక్సింగ్ 0 చేసామో అది పైథానే చేసేస్తుంది ఇన్ దిస్ లైన్.
ఓకే, మీకు తెలుసు కాబట్టి అలా రెండు ఇచ్చేసారు. ఓకే.
No, this is how we write in real time. అబ్దుల్ కలాం, బికాజ్ మనకు తెలుసు ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టూ ఐటమ్స్ కదా, అందుకే టూ వేరియబుల్స్ ఇక్కడ.
అదే తెలుసు కాబట్టి ఇచ్చారు.
సో సేమ్ అలాగే మనకి డిక్షనరీలో ఈ మెథడ్ ఉంది కదా, ఐటమ్స్ మెథడ్, which always return only two items. We know that. అందుకే ఇక్కడ we can actually give k that is representing key, v is representing value. మనకు తెలియకోకుండా ఇవ్వలేం కదా ఇన్ని వేరియబుల్స్ ఇక్కడ. ఐటమ్స్ విల్ ఆల్వేస్ గివ్ టు, అందుకే మనం k, v ఇస్తాం. దట్ ఈస్ we get key into k, value into v. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how we iterate through dictionary. What else we have? Okay, one more last thing. We have seen range object, right? Range of 1, 10, right? It starts from 1 and it goes till 10, but it won't print 10, right? The same thing we can do in for loop also. Okay, so it starts from 1, it goes till 10, but 10 is excluded. The same we have seen, right? See, it started from 1, 2, 3 till 9. The step size also we have seen. If I keep 2, what happens? It prints only odd numbers. See, if you have a requirement to have only odd numbers, this for loop will help you. For range 1, 10 till whatever you want, right? And as we have seen, if you don't give starting, right, that is by default 0. You cannot give like this. You have to, when you are specifying a step size, it expects 3 values. Okay, you have to give 0, 10, then step size. Let's say now 0 to 10 I am printing, right? It starts from 0, goes to 9. So how many times, how many values we got in total is 10. Whatever is here, right? 10. That many times your loop will run if you are starting at 0. And 0 is by default starting, right? You can actually remove this part and keep range of 10. It is also giving you the same thing, 0 to 9. So if you just give range of 10, that means your loop will run for 10 times. Basically in real time, right? If you want to run your loop for certain number of times, we use the range. Okay. Now, interesting one. We have seen our list, right? What was our list? I don't remember. Weights. Okay, weights grams, right? Now, how many times our list is there? Our weights grams is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? It has 7. So I can actually iterate through 7 times, right? If I want to access this weights using the index, for example, weights grams. So what I get into I get 0 first.
1,
It starts from 0, right?
0.
Huh. That is what our index in list also, right? So I can actually give
Mm.
I here. So it accesses the first item with the index. Now if I print, see what I got? I got 1200 because first I was 0. Second I was 1. That is why I got 1400. Third I was 2. That is how I am actually getting indexes for my list. You are getting how we are actually going by index. Sometimes we have to go by index also. Okay. You can access by the index. This point is clear. Okay, let me print index I. Okay, and we are accessing that list using the index. You see now it started at index 0, so we got 1200. Index 1, 1400. 2, 3, 4, 5 till end. Now this 7 now I have given as static, right? I don't know my weight grams will have 7, 8, 9. I don't know. How do we get the number of items in my list? You remember the method?
Directions.
No, there is a len method, length.
Length of that. Okay.
Okay, so length will give us the number 7, right? So I can actually get this directly here. Instead of 7, put here. That's all. Now I don't need to bother how many items I have in my list, how many other items it has, right? It goes through all the indexes and it actually takes the value by its index. This is useful in real time. Sometimes we have to get through indexes.
I was about to ask you about this length.
Yeah, okay.
I heard, like, I mean, ఇందాక ఇక్కడ చూస్తే enumerate అనేది ఒకటి చూపిస్తుంది. What is that?
Good
Enumerate.
question. Good question. Good question. Thank you. Actually, I didn't write it in my list. Very nice. So now let's say for some reason you want to get uh, both item. Okay. Here we are getting only indexes, right? Now here, let's say you are getting items. in this for loop, W, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Somebody dropped, I think.
Yeah.
It's like a next question. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So in this for loop, we get item. In this for loop, we get index. For some reason, if you want to both index as well as item, right? I
Mhm.
represent index, W represent value, whatever list you are having, right? For this, you have to apply enumerate. So what enumerate does, it return you two things. First is a index, second is a value. So based on use case, you can use whether index or value. Let's say this is value, I'm keeping W. You see now, index 0. At index 0, what value we have? 1200. Index 1 value is 1400. Like that, enumerate will return you the index and W. So what if I keep only one here instead of two variables? What happens? I will be a tuple with two things. First thing is index,